is Jill Feldman, and I am a lung cancer patient and advocate. I'm also co-founder of the EGFR Resisters, and it is an honor to not only be a co-investigator with the COCOON trial, but also to be a first author and be able to present the data from the COCOON trial on the patient-reported outcomes that were part of the trial. And I think, one of the most important things is that research, a lot of times, what gets lost in research and science is that behind every data point is a person and a family whose lives are profoundly impacted beyond statistics, beyond survival. So yes, it's very important. Survival is very important, but patients also want to live, and they want to live well. And so I think it's really important to understand the lived experience, and especially with side effects. And so my simple mind has always thought, they always tell us to stay ahead of the pain. Why aren't we staying ahead of the side effects if we know they're going to happen, most likely for some? And even if one thing that's really important as well is when you're doing a clinical trial, you're really looking at grade 3 and 4 toxicities. I understand that, but that's safety, not tolerability. And those grade 1 and 2 toxicities that people are like, oh, thankfully they don't need medical attention. Well, for us, I use the analogy, it's a pebble in the shoe. It may be no big deal at first, kind of annoying, just rubbing up against that foot. But as the days and the weeks and the months and the years go on and that pebble keeps rubbing, you may break skin and have blood. You still don't need to seek medical attention, but that persistent uncomfortableness absolutely impacts your daily life and impacts what you consider to be tolerable. So what the COCOON study, really the question is, can we avoid that, right? So can we, with a prophylactic dermatologic regimen up front, reduce the severity of side effects, which we showed already it does, but just as important, will the reduction in side effects increase quality of life? And it does. Digital enhanced educational interactive, that type of platform is really, really helping patients, because if you give patients a sheet of paper and tell them, here, read this is what you're going to do, I mean, it's overwhelming. So really, having it being shown and understanding. So the app is a great way to approach this. I think that's really important. The regimen is the patients would take either an oral antibiotic, the patients take an oral antibiotic, either doxycycline or minocycline. There's a clindamycin topical for the scalp, and there is chlorhexidine for the fingers to help with paronychia. And then there's a ceramide lotion that is used both on the face and the body. And so that is the regimen for patients to use. The antibiotic is prescribed, but the others can be bought over the counter at any drugstore. So there are patients I know who their oncologists have already started them on that regimen. I know somebody who is about to go on it right now had taken a pause before because of side effects, about to go back on it. She's going to be armed with these tools so that she can stay on the therapy that she had a full response, complete response, but the side effects, she had to go off. So to her, she's really excited because now she could prevent or mitigate the side effects instead of letting them get out of control. So it is working. People are using it. And do all the side effects go completely away? No. And there's never a drug. And that would be the goal, absolutely no side effects. But most drugs, there's never going to be absolutely no side effects. It's about, reducing the burden on the patients and the families and ensuring that people can stay on the treatment that they're benefiting from. And so that's all really important, but it's also important to understand, so what does that mean to patients and families? What's the impact? And so that's what COCOON did, was took PROs to look at how this regimen impacted their daily life compared to the standard of care with addressing the dermatologic toxicities compared to that arm. And so, consistently across the board, it showed a significant increase in quality of life when looking at functioning, when looking at emotional, looking at, quality of life as a whole. That definitely in that arm, people had a better quality of life. And that's really ultimately what is important. That allows people to live the best life they can in the context of living with this disease and being on treatment. There is information that clinicians can have about the regimen. And my advice is, first of all, I think whenever you're talking to patients about first-line treatment, I don't use the word shared decision. I use the word informed decision. So when you're providing this information on the treatments, this protocol should absolutely be included because it is part of care. And it shouldn't be sidelined. It shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be presented when you're talking about the treatment. And so I think for clinicians to start doing that is really important. And I think for patients, I always say, do the best you can. You're going to miss something here or there, or you may have run out of one of the ointments, and it's okay. Just get right back on it and do the best you can. I think nobody can follow a regimen 100% all the time unless they don't leave their home or don't have interruptions. But I know a lot of people freak out about that. And I just say, just do the best you can. And if you have any issues, absolutely contact your oncology team. And just as important, another thing that J&J had put out there is that they kind of they did analysis of the first 4 months of people on standard dose versus a dose reduction, and there was no difference in efficacy. So I think that's something also for oncologists to keep in mind. and patients to keep in mind that it's okay to reduce the dose. And a lot of times, I think patients are afraid they're getting less than, because they don't realize kind of how drugs are approved. And so, again, to stay on treatment, I think, you really have to be cognizant of what's really tolerable to you. And it's unique to each person. Tolerable is relative, and it can change over time. But those conversations are really important, and the flexibility is really important.